It all started on a rainy day. Little Tim Jensen was trying too hard to fall asleep as he feared off the boogeyman, in which later ghostly things happened to disturb him and approached him as he was sitting under his covers. As it gets scary, Tim was actually approached by his dad, who's trying to help little Tim, and then out of nowhere was pulled away as he was searching Tim's closet, which marks the start of the haunting of the boogeyman. A couple years later, Tim is all grown up and was living his life far away from where it all began, with the life that he has with his girlfriend, Jessica. At the night of Thanksgiving with Jessica's family, Tim sees his mother's ghost and has received a call from his uncle informing him to return home. He was shocked to find out that his mother has died. So then and there, he decided that it's time for him to return back to his home once and for all. In his venture, he firstly goes to the psychiatric ward, where he grew up all his life after the death of his father, as he was deemed mentally ill. To reconcile, he then was suggested by his psychiatrist to return to his haunted home, at least for a night. So as he returned, he was cleaning out his mother's stuff and was actually faintly attacked from his old friend, the Boogeyman, in the downstairs closet. Startled by the sounds outside, later that night, he finds Fanny, the girl that was hiding around his woodshed, and was soon discovered that Fanny had a list of the missing children that has actually fallen victim to the Boogeyman. Scared, Tim rushes and tries to leave the home and was caught by surprise. Jessica arrives. Then and there, they decided to go to a nearby motel to spend the night. But later that night, Jessica was taken by the Boogeyman and disappeared from the motel. Tim, being angsty, jumps into the closet, in which is actually a portal that links to his old home. Surprised as he came out, meets Kate at the other side, jokingly talking about Tim trying to scare her. But he knows that wasn't the case. Confused, Tim brings Kate to the motel to figure out the weird phenomenon. And as they explore the motel room, Kate spots blood on the bathroom and is now wary of Tim and starts to distrust him. So, she decides to head back home, not believing to Tim's word of the existence of the Boogeyman. So, she decides to head back home, not believing to Tim's word on the existence of the Boogeyman. So Kate decided to call Tim's uncle to check up on him, but was then taken by the Boogeyman. Tim returns to the old house and confronts Franny, asking for assistance. She brings him back to a house that is filled with proclamations of the Boogeyman. Tim and Fanny uncovers the truth about the house and who Fanny was, as she was the first child to ever fall victim to the Boogeyman there. She then helps Tim out by telling him that he should look at the place where it all started, if he so ever wants to kill the Boogeyman. As it starts, the Boogeyman pulled Tim into various portals in time through the closet, eventually depositing him in his childhood room. Realizing its true weakness, Tim smashes various toys that the Boogeyman uses to give itself form, eventually defeating it, vanishing it into the void. And with that, the Boogeyman is gone. And Tim hopes that his and Kate's life will be safer. The morning dawns, and Tim already feels better, thinking that he's finally safe. The end.
Assalamualaikum and good evening everyone and Salam Ramadan. So I'm Adha, I'm Nabiha Adha, and today I'll be presenting the 7 basic plots by Christopher Brook on the movie Boogeyman that was first premiered in 2005. So the first one is overcoming the monster, which is there is a scene in the movie where the hero Tim Jensen had overcome his fear and faced the boogeyman. He had succeeded in defeating it when he realized what is giving the boogeyman his power, which was this small toy. There's two things. There's three things. One is the sweater. The other one is a doll, and the third one is like, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like the static ball. And those are the powers. So he destroyed that and succeed to defeat the boogeyman. The next is the quest. The quest started in the movie when Tim went back to his old family home and realizes that the boogeyman is still haunting the house. He proceeds to overcome his fear of the monster by facing the monster head on, and like previously I said, he managed to defeat the boogeyman. The journey and return. The journey of the movie is at the scene where he embarks into the closet that later on sucked him into a time wrap and then ended up in his old childhood bedroom where he faced the boogeyman. The tragedy, there are a few scenes in the tragedy part. The first one would be when his father was dragged into the closet and killed, presumably killed by the boogeyman when he was very young. And then his mother went insane after his father's death. And a few years later, when he is already a grown up, his mother died, and that is the whole plot. The starting for the whole plot. And the last tragedy would be when his girlfriend Jessica, the hero's girlfriend Jessica, and his uncle Mike were also killed by the boogeyman when he came back to the house. And lastly, rebirth. In the last few minutes of the movies, all seems lost when the boogeyman began sucking the hero into his bedroom closet. Both him and his friend, Kate, that was there, were almost sucked into the closet. But in the last second, Tim realizes the boogeyman's weakness and he managed to destroy it, hence killing the monster and saving him and Kate. And that's all for my part. So I'll be passing this to Aiman. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aiman, and I will be talking a little bit about Campbell's theory on the movie The Boogeyman. So, the first one would be the call or the calling. Tim Jensen, as the protagonist of the story, has gotten the call when he is approached by his mother's ghost, and then later receives a call from his uncle, a literal call. Okay, and then the challenges in this story is that the protagonist is faced with the challenge of figuring out the existence of the boogeyman his whole life and the way into exterminating it, to fight it. The next one would be the abyss. In this story, the abyss to the protagonist itself is the closet, because he does not dare to cross the place as he is quite afraid of it. The next one is transformation. transformation in this story is in terms of the protagonist's bravery in facing challenges and the boogeyman itself after it attacked him many of times within the story. The next one and the last one would be the return. After solving the mystery of the boogeyman and facing it by himself, the hero gets back to his normal life and is not paranoid at anymore at closets. So I guess that is all for Campbell's theory for this movie, and we will be moving on to Paeh.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Paeh, and for today I will be telling you my part, which is I'm going to tell you the synopsis of the Boogeyman from the text. Now, as you can see from the screen, that is actually not the Boogeyman, the Boogeyman. So that is the Boogeyman from WWE, but I put it there on the slide because I was scared looking at the real Boogeyman. I guess so. Okay, so for now, uh, okay, so like I said, I'm going to share with you the synopsis. So the story in the text begins when the main character, the hero, Leslie Billings, went to see Dr. Harper for a session. Now, Dr. Harper is a psychiatrist, and as stated in the text, Leslie Billings is a 28-year-old working in an industrial firm in New York, if I'm not mistaken. And then he has three children, all of them deceased or has passed away. And then he is also divorced. Now the story begins with Leslie going to see Dr. Harper because he wanted to share with Dr. Harper his problems, his guiltiness. So Dr. Harper starts questioning him why he feels this guiltiness. So he said it all begins in 1966 when he met his wife. Her name was Rita, and then they fell in love, and then he married Rita, and then at that moment they were actually having a child. Rita was having a child. The child's name was Danny. Danny was their first child and also his first son. So it all began when one night at 3 a.m. Danny was screaming. So they both of them was rushing to his room, and then they found that Danny was already dead with all bloods and things like that. And before that, actually, when he was putting Danny on his cradle, or was it rack or something, was I think it was a cradle, and then Danny was saying Boogeyman, Boogeyman, Boogeyman. So and then Leslie heard that, and he was actually mad at his wife Rita because he said, "Why did you teach a child those kind of words?" He said in the text that he was like he was about to slap her wife, his wife, sorry, slap his wife. And then Rita said, "I did not teach him the word, that word, which is boogeyman." And then Leslie said she was lying, and then things like that. So now Danny had passed away, and then in 1969, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 1969, their next children was born. Her name was Cheryl. Okay, I think it was 66. Sorry, 1966. 1966, and then he married his wife in 1965. Okay, if I'm not mistaken. So he did marry Rita, met Rita in 1965, and then Ledley was born in 1965, and in 1966 was when Cheryl was born, and Eddie was actually born in 1969. Okay, so now Cheryl's moment was actually the same. It was that night. So Leslie was putting Cheryl into bed, into her cradle, and then Cheryl was saying boogeyman, boogeyman. So this came as a shock to Leslie because this is the exact thing that happened to Danny. Now, Leslie believed he started to believe that he was starting to believe that Boogeyman was real because the same situation was happening again. But because he had an ego inside of him, he did not want to seem as if he was wrong and take Cheryl into their room and sleep together with him and Rita. So he just let Cheryl sleep there, And at 3 a.m. they heard the screaming, and at the time when they were at the room, now Cheryl was placed in the same room where Danny was before, the room that Danny died, and then they found Cheryl was also had been killed by the boogeyman. So now, and with his face, Leslie did say something about Cheryl's face, saying had an expression as if that she was blaming her father. And then now they have, after Cheryl had died, and then in 1969 Andy was born. And he said that Andy was a mistake because they did try uh, pregnancy prevention tool. I don't know what it was called, ID or something, in prevention something, and then it did not work. So Andy was a mistake, he said. And at first he did not want to take care of Annie because he said that it was Rita's fault, so Rita had to take care of her alone. But then as time passed by, he started to love Andy the most, meaning that he loved Andy more than he loved his past children, both Cheryl and also Danny. And then they started to move out of the house, move another place, and then a year had passed. He said that he was actually happy because now he was having the time of his life. He was had a better job, okay, had a better job, and then Rita and also Andy was like fulfilling his life and things like that. And then after a year, he felt as if things were about to go to happen again. He started to feel like all the closets are opening by themselves again. Oh, and by the way, he also stated in the text that his old house had too many closets, so that's why one of the reason why he moved out of the house. And then now he is in the new house, in their new house. And then one night, Rita wasn't there. Rita went back because her mother, which means that Leslie's mother-in-law, had had an accident and was on the verge of dying, but she did not die. Someone else did, which is Andy did. Okay, so now uh, because he loved Andy so much, he actually wanted to bring Andy and sleep with him. And Dr. Upper asked Leslie, "Did you?" But Leslie said no because he did not want his son to be a sissy and things like that. And then he let Andy sleep in the room on his own with a closet in the room. And then on that night, yeah, it was two things that happened. The first time, two times that happened. The first time, the boogeyman was there, but he didn't manage to kill Andy because Leslie went there early. So uh, when he got to Andy, Andy was like, Boogeyman Daddy, wanna go with Daddy, wanna go with Daddy," which means that he asked to go and sleep with Leslie. Leslie almost uh, took Andy and take Andy and sleep with him, but he did not because there was just eagerness inside him. I don't know why. He should have just taken Andy and no take Andy and sleep with him, but no, he didn't. And then at 3 a.m. he heard another screaming, and then he did not open the lights this time. Which with his past student, he opened the light. When he opened the light, he couldn't see all everything had already done, which means that Boogeyman had already killed his student. But now, because he loved Andy so much, he rushed into the room without opening the lights, and that time he saw the Boogeyman was like strangling his son Andy, but it was too late. Then he was being a coward and he ran out to a diner. Okay, this is a little bit of funniness there. Okay, he ran out to a diner and drank 6 cups of coffee. Okay, and then to me it's a bit of funny. And then he started saying that he went back to the house and then called police before he went back. Police was settling everything, and then that is why he came to Dr. Harper and wanted to tell Dr. Harper about the everything that happened. And then Dr. Harper, okay, and then Dr. Harper said he wanted to make an appointment twice a week with Leslie. Okay, so now Dr. Harper was suggesting that they made an appointment twice a week on Tuesday and also Thursday. At first, Leslie was like, no, he didn't want to, but after Dr. Harper said that you have to, so now he wanted to make the appointment. So he went out to see the nurse, but the nurse wasn't there. The nurse that was there wasn't there. And then he came back in, Dr. Harper wasn't there. But he saw a figure inside the closet, and this is when you don't expect things to happen. Okay? The psychiatrist, Dr. Harper, was actually
I'm the Boogeyman, and I'm coming to get you.
the boogeyman had actually gotten to the psychiatrist beforehand, and he was actually wearing the mask of Dr. Harper. And now, to put it in conclusion, Leslie was actually talking to the boogeyman himself, which is quite scary if you ask me. Okay, now I'm going to explain to you the 7 basic plots by Christopher Booker. Now, there are not a lot from the text because I'm going to take over the text. Okay, so the first one is comedy. Now, as I said before, it's a bit of comedy when he went to the diner and had 6 cups of coffee. We were like, what?
Nani?
Okay, and now leave a face of Mr. Bean there because it's funny. It's really funny. So he went to the diner to take 6 cups of coffee. For us, we think that a guy who was depressed at that time shouldn't really taking 6 cups of coffee. He should have gone to the bar and taken wine or beer or something like that, because never heard of coffee being able to relieve depression before. I think he was not really depressed. He was like in a stressful moment. Usually people like that, if you see it in other movies, guys like especially at that age, 28 years old, would usually go for beer and wine, I don't know, but he went for coffee, which is quite amusing. And now the second thing that's can be summarized, which is referring to the 7 basic plots. Okay, we have tragedy, which is the death of the children. Now, as I said before, there are 3 deaths in this text, which is all of his children. The first one being Danny, and then Cher, and then also Andy. Now, it's a tragedy because it keeps repeating itself, and also uh, whenever you have a child and your child dies, it's always a tragedy. Okay. Okay, now I'm back. So now I'm going to explain to you a hero's journey, or the 8 steps in a journey. 8 steps in a journey by Joseph Campbell.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Through that. Now, the first one is the call, which is when Leslie Billy went to see the psychiatrist. We think that this is the call because if he did not go to see the psychiatrist, the whole text or the whole story wouldn't even happen. So now the call and Boogeyman is haunting. So the call, which means that everything started when he went to see the psychiatrist. Now the second one is the challenge, which is the Boogeyman itself, because he always kept trying to keep the Boogeyman away, which is stated in the text. Okay, stated in the text in page what was it, page, I couldn't really remember, because it's but it's stated in the text that he kept every closet in his house shut, but it kept opening. A creak was opening. And then also when he went to see Dr. Harper, when he said to Dr. Harper, is that a closet, can you close it, and things like, which means that he keeps trying to keep the boogeyman away. And also he moved for after Shield had died, he moved from his old house because he was trying to keep the boogeyman away. So that is the abyss, which is the closet, which is a bit of scary if you ask me. So the abyss here means that where the monster came from, which is the closet. Now, this is called the abyss because this is considered abyss because we think that the closet is the source of where the boogeyman is coming from. If you see from the text itself, it says that whenever he closes the closet keeps opening itself, a creak, which means that at least a slight opening, the boogeyman can come out. And even in the end, he saw that the boogeyman was holding the Dr. Harper's mask. Okay, was holding Dr. Harper's mask inside the closet. Now, the revelation. Now you believe, because now the revelation here means that Leslie has now believed that the boogeyman is real and tries to prevent the boogeyman from getting to him or his family uh, anymore. But in the end, he met the boogeyman, and I don't really know what happened then. So that is all from me. I'm going to pass it to my friends right now. Thank you so much for listening.